Hey, everybody, welcome back to Behind the Spacebar, the podcast that exists solely for the purpose of making you a world class playback engineer. I'm your host, Reese, and I'm here today with a fellow hostage in a different part of the world, but
Yes.
Will Doggett. And if you're listening and not watching on YouTube, we're both in some very stark and poorly lit rooms while we're
Yes.
recording today. But we're here. We're happy to be here. Happy to help out. Happy to answer some questions. Well, how's it going? First and foremost, haven't we actually haven't done this in a while? A little behind the scenes. It's been a minute since
Yeah,
we've
it's
recorded.
has it been like a month or more, like
At
5 weeks or
least,
something?
yeah,
Yeah.
it's been a while.
Yeah,
So,
we've a lot has happened since then.
yep,
I should state for the record, I am not being held against my will.
that's
I have
true. Me
chose to be
neither.
here. But yeah, Reese, I want to say we talked about this before we hopped on, but just so people know the behind the scenes, I want to say thank you publicly because the past 5 weeks, or I mean, I guess it's been almost 3 months now since we launched the podcast. I don't actually know.
Yeah,
You have handled everything. So, you guys do me a favor, wherever you're listening or watching, if you've enjoyed any of these episodes, it's not because of me, it's because of Reese. So give him a shout out, maybe spam the comments, go Reese. If you've listened to that episode, you could even include a Star Wars reference or say go Reese
yes,
Bago if you want to. But yeah, I'm thankful to be back. A lot has conspired and happened since we last talked, but it's good to be back, man. We're going to
yeah.
record some great episodes. And I've been seeing some good questions coming in on Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know which ones you're picking, but I'm excited to dive into those. So
Well,
glad
you
to
know
be here.
what? On that note, let's get right into it. I found one just scrolling through our Instagram account from Michael.
Okay.
Now, Michael, I believe he might be a fan either of the podcast or maybe, I don't know, maybe Michael's a student because he used a term that's very, very from studio to stage. Not that we invented it, but it's something that we use a lot. So I'm going to throw the question at you and maybe we're going to give some context before
Okay.
I get your full answer.
Sweet.
So short and sweet, would you prioritize division of labor over redundancy? Now we know redundancy, we've already done an episode or two about it. We talk about it quite a bit. But division of labor, as soon as I read that, my antenna went up and I was like, okay, this guy has been around a minute because that is something that we talk about quite frequently.
Mm.
So, in the context of playback, first and foremost, before we even answer his question, Will, what is division of labor and how would we use that for playback on stage?
Yeah, that's really good. I just thought while we're talking, I'm gonna look this up to see what the actual proper definition is. So let me share my screen here for a second, and then we'll take a look at this. How about that? So let's start here. Google says refers to division of labor, which depends on where you are in the world. It could be LABOR or it could be
Yes.
LABOUR, right? So,
Yeah.
but this is the way Google refers to this. Division of labor refers to the specialization of tasks within a production process or social structure. It involves breaking down complex jobs into smaller, more manageable parts with individuals or groups focusing on specific tasks. The specialization is intended to increase efficiency, productivity, and output. The way I think about that, okay, that definition, it wasn't incredibly helpful, I'll be honest. But the way
It
I think
wasn't
about this,
exciting, I would
it,
say.
yeah, it wasn't
A
exciting.
little
Doesn't,
dry.
not the most, it reminds me of the episode of The Office when the scribe person reads it back and she's like, that's what he said. That's what she said. And Mike was like, the delivery isn't great, a little dry. Anyway,
Yeah.
Office fans out there, you get what I'm talking about. Everyone else is like, what is he talking
Yeah.
about?
Like, what is The
So
Office? Watch
it
it. That's really what we're saying. If you haven't
that's the
seen it, watch
message.
it.
That's
Yeah.
you'll improve your playback rig watching The Office.
Yes, 100%.
So the quick 1 minute version of division of labor, and I love that Michael threw out are probably two most commonly used terms on this show:
Yes,
redundancy,
absolutely.
division of labor. Division
Yeah.
of labor is the idea of it's the foundational principle that explains why you should not run tracks, keys, in-ears, pro presenter, lights, teleprompter, all on one computer, right?
Hmm.
Division of labor, the way I think of it, is basically separate machines for separate tasks, separate things for separate tasks, right? It's not necessarily referring to the human part of labor, but I'm just thinking about, and again, to paint the picture for everyone, the way pros think about this is if they're doing virtual keys and they're doing playback and they're doing vocal tuning and they're doing video and lighting, right? That's common in almost every modern show. Those five things do not happen on one computer. And on the site and in our bootcamp program, I share a comment from someone on YouTube. Maybe they're listening. I hope they are. Where they said, hey, I do all these things on my computer. And what that one person hasn't experienced yet is what I experienced 12 years ago, which is standing in front of 1,000 people in a theater and you ruining the entire show because your computer goes pew, because you were running keys and tracks on that. So what a professional would do, and then we'll get to Michael's question. What a professional would do is say, I am going to use one computer for playback. I'm going to use one solution for keys. Maybe that's a separate computer. Maybe that's just hardware, right? I'm going to do my vocal tuning using a UAD interface. So it's all done in hardware and it's not done in software. And then lights are going to be handled by a lighting console, and video is going to be handled by a Mac Studio in the back in Lighting World running Inbox, right? All of those tasks are split across 5 different things. The benefit of that is, one, if one of those goes down, not everything else goes down, right? If playback stops, vocal tuning keeps going, keys keep going, lights keep going, video keeps going. Similarly, I was earlier this year, we were on a 30 show run, a tour, and one of the artists, the lighting console went down, but tracks and video and keys and vocal processing, all that kept up, right? Yeah. So that's the idea of division of labor. The other important concept here to explain what Michael's asking is redundancy. So what pros do is they realize hope is not a good backup plan. And actually, we had a great comment. I don't remember his name, but someone reached out on one of our videos and said, I'm a little skeptical. Why are you using 2 computers? And my wife actually responded, and she's like, is this a good response? Because she's kind of handling social media for us. And I was like, yeah, it's perfect. And I said, the one thing I would add there is hope is not a good backup plan. That's kind of the rallying cry here. So if playback goes down, playback stops. What pros do is they go 2 laptops for playback, playback A, playback B. 2, let's call it laptops, or 2 keyboards for keys, right? A and B, primary backup. What was the other thing? Vocal processing. Not just one UAD interface, but 2 UAD interfaces for redundancy. Not just one lighting console, but a lighting solution and a backup lighting solution. Maybe it's a backup console. Maybe it's the opener's console that's shared across different acts. And then finally, video. Not just one Mac Studio running video, but 2 Mac Studios running video, okay? So that's the thing we've got to understand first, right? Those 2 concepts are really important, and those 2 concepts are how pros travel the world and consistently put on a great show night after night. And here's the thing I want to encourage us, and then I'd love for you to read Michael's question again, is those concepts are like gravity. You can be mad at gravity as much as you want, but if you jump off a cliff, guess what you're going to do? You're going to fall to the bottom of the cliff. That's gravity, right? You can be mad at redundancy and division of labor. And I like the heart, if I remember Michael's question properly, I like the heart of Michael's question, because it's like, what's really the most important? Yeah. And I like these difficult questions, but we have to understand this is what pros do. And the reason pros do it is because hope is not a good backup plan. And because they have likely experienced what I've experienced. That guy that commented on YouTube again, he has not got to the point where his computer's crashed and he's felt the shame of standing in front of 1,000 people in a theater and, you know, the lead singer having to get on the mic and say, hey, give us a couple minutes. And we have to do the whole show without any tracks, without any keys. It's a terrible, terrible feeling. And that happened because I did not practice those 2 things. So Reese, do me a favor, back us up now. Read that question one more time. Give me any context if you added, and then I'll see if I can answer that.
Yes, I'm definitely going to add some context to this. He wrote a little bit more. I was trying to get to the heart of the question, which again, the question simply stated is, would you prioritize division of labor over redundancy? Now, for a little bit of context, if I recall, he was asking this question because, like so many DIY guys, budget is going to be a concern. So we don't, whatever Will's answer is here, keep in mind that this is all, take it with a grain of salt, only in the sense that, we realize if Will says, if his answer runs along the lines of redundancy is always the most important thing, get to computers yesterday. We realize, money doesn't grow on trees. So that's always keeping that in mind. Will take it from there. I think that's worth mentioning at least.
Yeah, I said I like Michael's question. Michael, I got to admit, your question reminds me of being at a college or university level philosophy class and saying, your house is on fire and you can only carry two things in your arms. You can choose your wife or one of your three children. What do you choose? And that shows where your values really are. And you're like, no, that's an unfair question.
Can I push my wife out the window and hope she survives?
That's right. That's right.
That's my answer.
Yeah, it's like it's the impossible question. Michael, it's a good question. I do think there's a third path, and I want to talk about the third path. But here's the way, because we've had this question a lot in coaching calls and with students. Here's the way I think about it: is it comes down to your temperament, and it comes down to what's most important to you. All right. And so the way I think about this is temperament is if you're like a nervous Nelly, and when you step on stage, you can't trust the computers and you're like, what's going to happen? Then redundancy needs to be more important for you, full stop, right? I'm just going to give you a
Yeah.
direct answer. If you're nervous about the tech, redundancy is most important. The second piece of this though is, if you're the person that likes pushing the envelope, you like living on the edge, then probably division of labor is most important to you. Okay. Now, the second piece of this, though, is yes, temperament is one. The second is what's most important to you in the sense of if one of these things were to go down, could the show still go on if you lost your virtual keys? Okay. If you lost your virtual keys, then that means the most important thing is redundancy for playback. If it's like virtual keys and I have two keyboards, and if my virtual keys go down, I can fake it by adding a pad in or something, then you're fine. Like, keys is the least of my concerns. So let's elevate between multiple possible scenarios what's most important. I think I am probably always going to tend towards redundancy over division of labor. If that works within the context of what I'm doing, right? Like, meaning, for me, I could certainly do redundancy as doing playback and keys all in the same machine, because I'm not a great keys player and I'm playing like, root 5, and maybe I'll get a little spicy and throw a third in there occasionally.
Watch
But
out.
but people that are like, they've got their Ivory library pulled up, or whatever, the Spectrasonic keyscape, and they're just like blazing Jacob Collier licks, and they're all over the place, and they're like killer keys players, then you're probably not going to be able to do playback and keys on the same machine, because you're going to use a lot of processing to manage all those notes, right? That's a lot of polyphony. My polyphony is like 5 voices max, it's not a lot. So I think I'm probably going to prioritize redundancy. If Again, this is the impossible question. I'll talk about our third path in a second. If you have any more context or anything else you want to throw in, Reese, please do. But we'll talk about the third potential path that I think makes this reasonable for most people. But it's tricky. I think it's got to be contextualized to your situation. I do think, one, if you're going to do redundancy and like do playback and virtual keys and vocal tuning all on the same machine, one, you got to test that that's actually possible, and you need to do a proof of concept that like one doesn't interfere with the other, because that sounds really great until you've got a pad sustaining and you press stop on your Ableton machine and your pad goes pew, and you go, what? Will said I could do this. Well, you never got to a proof of concept to realize when I press stop, it sends CC 128 all notes off from Ableton, and it kills my pad. Therefore, I have to find a workaround, which a workaround does exist, and you can find it on YouTube, and I've talked about it for many years. But you've got to get to that point of like testing, right? And really dig in and see that. So anything I'm missing there, Reese? And then I want to share like a
No.
possible third path.
Yeah, and again, keep in mind, this isn't one of those questions when we get every once in a while. It's not. I wouldn't say there's any skepticism in Michael's question at all, in
Yeah,
the sense
I
that
agree.
like He's not saying, do I really need redundancy? Do I really need division of labor? He's sold on both concepts from what I can tell. It's just an issue of like, hey, if division of labor is more important, then I need to go buy another Mac, maybe another two. But if they're equally important, then I need to buy really four more,
Yeah, that's
which is,
right.
I mean, that's, of course, that's going to add up.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be the only thing I'd add to it. But this is a great question because I like the way he's thinking about it. Regardless, is that he knows they're both important. They're both valuable to a stable playback rig. He just the situation he's in right now. He just wants to make sure he's making the right choice where he's spending his money, where he's spending his time.
Yeah,
So
that's good, Reese. And I think, yeah, kudos to Michael for thinking deeply about this. And I think, like I always encourage our students to push back, to dig in. I'll have people that will ask and say, um, Will, why do you use a tempo track versus automating in the master tempo lane? Well, why do you group your stems as opposed to separating them out? And I think those are really good questions. And, when I'm having a bad day, I just want to say, just trust me, kid. I've been doing this 20 plus years, blah, 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 which is true. And I have landed on the most efficient process that exists in the world. But I would encourage you to test that. Like, don't knock a tempo track until you've tried it. Do you have anything else, Reese? If not, I'd love to encourage Michael with two things. And one of those is that third path.
no, go ahead. I think this is actually a great question to. This is going to be the whole episode, so you not
Great.
knock yourself out, and let's end on Michael's third path here.
Yeah, this is really good. So one, I again, Michael, great question. I want to echo what Reese said. You're thinking about this deeply. You understand these concepts, but you're in a real reality of budget constraints. What can I do? What I would encourage you to do, Michael, first thing, then let's talk about the third path to wrap up, is embrace those constraints. There's a great book. It's actually a talk that got turned into a book called The Poetics of Music. I believe it's by Stravinsky, if I remember correctly, Igor Stravinsky. But he talks about how creativity is not endless options. The most creative people are the people that work within limitations. And so, Michael, don't view your limitations as a hindrance. Your limitations are a gift. And I look back, I was just hanging out last week, I think, with a really good buddy of mine, where we spent 5 years, I think, in Florida together. And those are the most formative years of our life. Of my life, and I would not be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for that time, because we were experimenting with how do we control lights and how do we control video, and landed on a lot of these concepts that I now implement and practice and preach and teach, but there were some budget limitations there, right? That was the time when my computer crashed. So Michael, embrace those limitations. And what I mean by that is, this just may not be the season for you to do playback, to do keys, and to do vocal tuning. That's okay, right? And so embrace those limitations and go, we're going to hold off on vocal tuning until we can get the proper equipment. Because Michael, the thing I can encourage you is, whether you're doing this for yourself, whether you're doing this for an artist, that artist or future you will appreciate you being honest enough to say, this is all we can do within our current limitations, as opposed to you saying yes and then ruining the show. And again, Michael, trust me as a guy who has stood in front of 1,000 people and ruined the show because I tried to do too much. So embrace those limitations, right? Number two, and here's the third path, is I always want to encourage people. We talk about budget limitations and we talk about, let's just make it easy, playback and virtual keys. Reese, you alluded to this. To do redundancy, to do division of labor, let's start there. Let's say I have one Mac. To do division of labor, I need two Macs, which is playback on one, keys on the other. But to do division of labor and redundancy, I need two playback machines, identical, and I need two keys machines, identical, okay? And every time we talk about that, someone will say, but my playback machines aren't identical and I haven't had issues. Great, keep doing it. What professionals do and what you should do is two exact machines, because they will fall out of sync at some point. And again, that's not redundancy. You've got a backup and it's connected to a Play Audio 1U. That's great. That's awesome. So here's the third path for Michael. If we're just doing playback and virtual keys, we need 4 machines. The beautiful news is I would encourage everyone to go to apple.com. The lowest entry level, I'm not going to share my screen because my computer's about to blow up as it is with what we're doing. But The entry level MacBook Air, 13 inches, 16 gigs of RAM is $1,000. Okay. You could buy a refurb of that. You could go to Costco, um, uh, and get a Mac. You could buy a couple years old. The Apple certified refurb store is amazing, and we can reduce that price down from $1,000, right? Pretty easily. The other day, I don't know if they still have it, and I couldn't find it really quickly while we're talking, but Walmart, for example, sells, at least they used to. Oh yeah, here it is. For $599, you can get a MacBook Air M1, 8 gigs RAM, 256 gigs storage. Now, some people will hear that and go, well, there's no way I could do 8 gigs, 256. Okay, maybe not, but those machines are way more powerful than you expect. In fact, testing the hard drive speed of that exact computer, comparing it to this is an M2 8 gig MacBook Air. My wife's M1, the hard drive speed is faster in it than this M2. Go figure, who knows why. But here's my third path to Michael. Michael, budget is a real thing. Budget constraints are a real thing. One thing I would encourage you to likely consider, again, go back to the first point, stay within your means. One thing I'd like you to potentially consider is look at all the gear you have and go, if I were to sell some of this, if I were to sell these computers, could there be a world where I buy 4 M1 MacBook Airs, which is 600 times 4, $2,400. That's less than like a brand new MacBook Pro. And so what we're often tempted to do is we think bigger, faster is better. And again, like I always try to encourage people, that poor guy that commented on that YouTube video, at some point, if he wants to be honest, he's going to come back and comment and go, I was wrong. And he bought this max out computer, did everything on it at once, and it crashed. I would rather you spend $2,400 on 4 M1 MacBook Airs and be able to split things and have redundancy and run that system into the ground until it's ready to upgrade and then upgrade. So that the third path is basically consider reselling some stuff and getting a pool of money. And instead of buying, and again, I always encourage people, 8 gigs is fine for playback. 8 gigs is fine. 8 gigs is pushing it for virtual keys, but it's probably going to be fine. Any Apple Silicon from M1 to, I think we're at M5 now, M4 M4 for sure. I don't know I don't think M5's out yet, but like any of those machines are going to be perfectly fine and live within those constraints. If you're a tribute band doing 300 songs, that 8 gig M1 is probably not going to cut it for you. So live within your limitations, get a little more RAM, a little more bigger storage, but do redundancy, and whenever possible, do division of labor as well. So Michael, great question. Pursue that third path if possible and live within those limitations, man. You're doing good work. Keep up the good work for sure.
That is good advice, and that is why I play a Telecaster. I limit myself.
There you go. Telly's a great guitar, man. But
Yeah, it's
52
the best.
Butterscotch Telly is my dream guitar one day. One
Yeah,
day.
one day you're gonna have to sell a lot of your gear to get that one.
Got to sell a lot of gear. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. That's right.
Hey man, I think that's a good stopping point though. Great question because it's related to things that we've talked about before, but it comes at it from a slightly different angle. So Michael, thank you
Okay.
very much.
Yeah.
Great
Thank you,
question.
Michael. Good
All
question.
right, well, I think it's time to get out of here, but before we do, I'm going to throw it to you real quick. If you can do this in less than 30 seconds, that's my
Yep.
challenge to you.
Challenge
Um,
accepted.
if you want to learn about becoming a world-class playback engineer and you need some free resources, you don't know where to look, or maybe you are on that path, but you want to submit a question and have it answered here on the podcast, where do they need to go? Point them in the right direction for us.
Yeah, that's good. I want to challenge you. My process is the fastest, most efficient, stable process that exists. That's a bold claim. Here's how we're going to test that. From studiotostage.com/template. I know you may not be able to understand my South Carolina Southern drawl. So go to the link in this description, click through there. It's completely free. You can download my template, which includes Foundations Lite, which is my click player, my AI cues player for free, the light versions of those for free. And I'm going to give you access to 2 courses that are going to teach you exactly how to use that. Here's my challenge. If you're running in session view and you're that guy, God bless you guy. It's not a girl because girls aren't this stupid, but if you're that guy that keeps commenting on my videos telling me, but Will, session view, download this template and try it. If you're the person that says automating tempos and your master track is faster than tempo tracks, download the tempo and try it. If you're the person that individually drags every one of your stems into a custom label track like EG1 and you spend lots of time doing that, download my template and try it. And here's the thing. If it doesn't work, guess what? You didn't spend any money and you can always go back to your process. So just try it. That's it. I don't even have, here's the final thing. I know I'm going over 30 seconds, but I don't even have the email automation set up to sell you anything yet. So just download it for free. And at some point, I'm going to send you an email that asks you to subscribe or to pay for something. But until then, just download it, enjoy it. If it works for you, great. If not, throw it away. You didn't waste a single dime. That's what I got for you, Reese, from studiostage.com/template.
That was good. It was over 30 seconds, which is pretty much what I expected. But I'm going to ding you for one thing. You did not tell them where to go to submit a question. So I'm going to throw it to you one more time. 5 seconds, go.
But that's your job, Reese. No.
Okay, fine.
Go to Instagram, which is from Studio to Stage IG. That's right, correct? You
Yeah.
probably know that. Yeah. From
Yeah.
Studio to Stage IG, and send us a direct message. So
Yes, please
we would love to hear from you. There's no question too simple. There's no question too advanced. And submit it, and Reese will ask it to me on a future episode. So it's great.
We will
We'd love
do
to
that
hear
for
it.
sure. Thanks, Will. It's been good. Great question, Michael. Thanks, everybody, for joining us again. We will be back next week with a brand new question. Probably still wearing black t-shirts, maybe still in the same room. We don't know.
100%.
We'll see
100%.
we'll see how it goes next time. Thanks, everybody. We'll check you later. Bye.
See you, Reese. Bye.